here. Hi, Rick DiClemente from Pittsburgh with StarSelf.com. Welcome to another episode of Astrology Unplugged. And I don't really know what it means, except honestly, we're not plugged in anywhere. And let me turn all these sounds off. There it is. All right. Now, keep in mind, although wonderful, pretty little Mercury retrograde has gone direct, it's what I understand, it's at its heaviest when it's stationary, which is called it's at its station. It is at its station. Going backward and stopping, going forward and stopping, that's where it's heaviest. I don't agree with that. I think it's at its heaviest 2 weeks into the period. That's when it really gets nuts. But things, as of now, as of today, things should get better and better and better and better in terms of things that have been held up and starting to move forward. Tonight's going to be a really interesting combination of things. I wanted to continue with what I was talking about last week, even though I didn't, it wasn't astrological. I was telling you my observations about human beings in the left and right side of the mouth. Well, I failed to go into part of it, which I just do automatically because I do it so long. The eyes. The eyes are a big deal. Of course, the eyes are the soul and all that. But I'm talking about when somebody's left eye starts to get narrow. This is a really big deal. That's usually right, not always. When a person has equal, I'm talking about how open they are. When they're about the same. Now, this is general. That is basically a sign of a healthy personality or a young sign, Aries, Taurus, Gemini. Because young signs don't allow themselves to get complicated. They see something, they say something. Now, of course, you could have a complicated Aries or Taurus or Gemini, but basically the early signs of the zodiac are very innocent looking, unless the rest of the chart does something. But when you see somebody whose left eye is starting to close, you can see a picture of somebody who's 10, 20, 30, 40, and you can see the comparison of the left eye starts to close. The left eye is controlled by the right brain. So when the self gets tired, you heard people say, I'm so tired, but they're not really tired. They're more of a soul tired. That's what leads to that left eye closing. When the left side controls the right brain, controlling the right eye stays more open. So when you see somebody's left eye closed, you don't have to be suspicious, but just make a little note in your mind that they may be much more worn out inside than what they're saying. And you can't blame people for being worn out, but it's just a sign of things aren't going well on the inside. To me, it's a sign of great amount of stress. Okay, now I did get some questions about Mercury retrograde. I'm going to tell you after studying it for a long time, I just don't have anything to say to you except that it's a pain in the butt. I hear all these astrologers try to give you all these little fancy reasons and trying to pretty it up about how it's a sign that wants to pressure us to learn to be patient and all this stuff and be more detail-oriented. Say what you want. I think it's a pain in the butt. I don't know why. I don't know why. But I do know if you go slower and if you're in a more relaxed state of being and if you're less hyper, you will do better with it. So it's not a time to be upset because you will pay for it. It will get right back at you. Mercury does not mess with your heart. It may mess with your heart indirectly, but it messes with your mind, and I think your mind gets stressed out. Then it affects your heart. So I guess you're right. What people don't know is Mercury has a long period of shadow. The shadow period is when Mercury goes backward and then it goes forward. When it goes backward, when it goes backward to 0 and then it goes forward, that 0 spot becomes the shadow part. So that when Mercury's coming along the months before, Mercury's entering its shadow when it goes to 0 and it's going forward. Then it gets to 15 and stops. There's another point. That's the 2 bookends of the shadow period. And when it goes back to 0, it's back at the shadow point. And it doesn't come out of retrograde. It comes out of retrograde when it starts going forward, but it's not really out until it passes the shadow point here. So that's why Mercury is about retrograde half of your life. That's what I know. The shadow periods are definitely cleaner and less distractive. Okay. Now, I did a chart the other day. Friend of mine. I did not see much activity. That when I don't see activity, I don't worry about the harmonics too much. What do I mean? I mean a lot of planets are in Aries now. Did she have stuff going on in Aries? No. Cross the zodiac in Libra? No. At a right angle, Cancer and Capricorn? No. So I knew that wasn't the case because she's real stressed out and at the real end of her wits. Okay, now remember this. This is an absolutely critical document that you got to get in your brain. Okay? The cross in astrology is everything. It is everything. The ascendant and the descendant. Of course, astrology works in many, many ways. But this cross is so critical that you've got to engrave this in your head. Ascendant and the descendant goes across. That's me, that's you. That's me, that's us. That's me, that's my marriage. That's me in the public. This is me, that's you. That's me, that's us. This is really, really critical that you know this. Okay, the nadir. The nadir's at the bottom, the midheaven's at the top. Where did I come from? Where am I going? Where's my family? Where's my business? What is my nationality? What am I being called to do? Okay, so that cross is absolutely critical that you get in your mind. And so many astrologers, I've been speaking about this since 1980, so many astrologers make it so complex that they don't even fall back to this basic cross. Karen D has a question. Go ahead, dear.
Reading about the midheaven, and I was trying to figure out how many houses are in the midheaven. Is it one on each side?
House is not at a midheaven. The midheaven is always the beginning of the 10th house.
Thank you.
The midheaven is always the beginning of the 10th house in all charts. All houses are different sizes. Mm-hmm. There are many house systems. There's even the equal house system. And you're a lucky stink bug because I can't get up and get you. So how do you get to live tonight? All right. There's another kind of midheaven, which is just the basic cross. Yes, Susan. You'll have to unmute yourselves.
Yeah, if you saw somebody who had a chart with a planet, say, at the midheaven and at the ascendant, does one take precedence over the other?
No, it's the opposition is critical. The fact that one is over the what if one's Saturn, one's Venus?
Okay.
What if the Venus is closer? Saturn's 7 degrees, the Venus is 1. Saturn's much more powerful. No. If they're up and down the midheaven or across the ascendant, they're really a big deal. And you take the nature of the two planets.
Okay. No, but the ascendant and the midheaven.
What
so
about?
It's square, but would one planet rule the chart more than the other? If you had one planet, let's say...
You have to look at the nature of the planets. You have to look at how close they are. You have to look at what they are doing. But suffice it to say, for now, that when a planet is near one of the angles, it's really, really important, and it is called angular. When any planet is near those 4 angles, even before it, even 2, 3, 4, 5 degrees before the bottom, 2, 3, 4, 5 degrees before the descendant, 2, 3, 4, 5 degrees before the midheaven, They are angular and they are critical. And when there are two up and down across it, like my sun Uranus right across my ascendant is extremely powerful, and which gives me such Aquarian tendencies that override a lot of the Capricorn. Good questions. But for instance, let's say you're a Leo and you got a dance going on between Mars and Jupiter. Well, the Mars, that's not a good example. If your basic sun sign is by nature more in alignment with the one planet, then that one planet will take precedence because it's closer to your nature. Okay, but for now, I want you to just keep this in mind. Everything I look at in astrology, at all times, I have a built-in crosshairs in my head. I have a built-in crosshairs, and I'm constantly moving those crosshairs. For years, that's how I do it. Now, let me show you what I mean. So I'm reading for this girl. She walks into my house, and I'm reading, and I don't see anything happening, right? So take a look here. Watch. She's a Scorpio, this girl, this woman. I don't see anything happening in her Aries house. I don't see things happening otherwise, etc., etc. So what do? I knew before she opened her mouth that the problem was in the sixth house. Okay, let's find out where that sound is coming from. We're getting a sound. Hi, Robert. Hello. Hello, Robert's mother. How nice to see you. Okay. Okay. Now, what I'm saying to you is, since the woman is a Scorpio, opposite Scorpio would be the seventh house. When you want to examine something, put it in the first house. The zodiac is a prism. I wanted to examine a basic Scorpio. So, pause. Everything's happening in Aries now. Why? Eris, Mercury, Uranus have all been together. Kicking butt in the sign of Aries. In the U.S. chart, you put Cancer here. Aries is up in the 10th house, which means, are we going to set a new direction for ourselves? Okay? So I put Scorpio in the first house because I'm talking to a Scorpio. Across from the first house is the sign of Taurus. Underneath Taurus in the sixth house is Aries. So the Aries for her is in the sixth house. Now, there has been this absolute phenomenal explosion of Aries energy in the sign of Aries. In your chart, you have Aries in different houses from each other. In all Scorpios, have them in their solar sixth house. Because you have Scorpio, Sag, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, Aries. 6 houses away. What is the sixth house? It's the house of work skills, taking care of yourself, your health. Getting yourself ready to meet people. The explosion of Aries planets is not coming from out there. It is coming from out there in the sense that Eris is involved. Eris is new, and Eris is certainly a cosmic collective planet. So in a sense, it's happening to the whole planet at once. It's the planet of chaos. It's the planet of the feminine rising. But the Aries is trying to explode through you. It's your Aries that wants out. So recently, people who are dynamic, people who get off their butt, people who take action, people who see something and establish it and they move forward, these people are not having trouble in general. The ones who are holding things back, well, I don't want to hurt somebody and I want to be careful and I don't want to get stepped on and what if and all this, they're the ones having trouble. Not because the Aries is up there kicking their butt, but because the Aries inside of them wants expressed. You do not have any control of when a planet turns up the rheostat. You have no control, none. That's how you're connected. And if you're in sync, you wouldn't want to. But when your Aries starts turning up the rheostat, Aries is, I want to be me, I'm going to sing for you. Dreadful. I want to be me, I want to be myself. Okay. So I look into her 6th house. She's in a terrible marriage. She's a very good person. She has a lovely child. So I know exactly what's going on. She's not allowing herself out. The 6th house is, I'm going to go get it together so I can go out into the world on my own. Now, if you're married and you're happy, then you get yourself together, and you get yourself together in a way that your life gets better and you become more assertive, more myself. It's not that you have to go alone, but this person has a complete history of ignoring herself, ignoring herself, ignoring herself. So what happens? Her child starts to come home with less than positive reports from school, which are a direct indication of what a poor father figure he has. Since she didn't listen and didn't listen and didn't listen to this Aries energy for so long, now it's getting her where she lives. It's affected her son, which she's broken her back to keep this son on the right track. Now, she's got to deal with the father. She can't just keep accepting his rude behavior. She can't just keep accepting the bad marriage. She's got to take an action and develop herself to deal with it, or her son's going to get worse. I said, do you think there's anything you can do to save this marriage? She said, no. I said, okay. It's not my job to stay in or get out. My job is to help you get in sync. So what does she need to do? She needs to activate her 6th house, just like the planet said. 6th house, get it together, get a new work skill, make yourself more marketable. So when the reading was all over, that's what she said. I got to get it together. I got to do these things for me to move. But it was only when she started to see her son being affected, because the son was mirroring the father's behavior. What else is a boy going to do? Do you see the point? I did all that with no planets. I did all that with no houses. Just by asking her sun sign. And when I do readings for the public, that's how I do it. You're a Scorpio. All the activity I know is in Aries. So say you're an Aquarian now. I would put Aquarius in the 1st house, Pisces in the 2nd house, Aries is in the 3rd house. So the Aquarians I know now are getting that push in the 3rd house to start speaking their mind, 3rd house of the mind, and exploring the mind, expressing the mind. And I'm not going to go into it with all 12 of you, because I've already done it twice on these videos in the last several months. Now, if this woman starts to, here she is, she's a Scorpio. We rotate the chart, we put Scorpio here, Aries becomes here. If she starts to express her Aries nature, the planets will help her. What does that mean? We all get in these false mindsets, especially from the old books. The planet's going to come get me. It's not going to come get you. It is your energy. The problem is you're spending it all, forcing it down. And since I told you you can't control the rheostat, what do you think's going to happen? I'm so tired of more. I'm coming into my skin. Okay, that's what the person doesn't know, is that they can't control the rheostat. But you can turn on the light switch. You can plug in the Christmas lights. You can start speaking your mind. You can start going to classes. You can start marketing yourself. Now, here's where the esoteric gets involved. And this is phenomenal. And I'm just going to be evangelistic if I want to, because it's my show. When you start to work with this planet, it will help you. It will bring you books. It will bring you Rick. It will bring you Sally. It will bring you friends. It will bring you movies. It will bring you money. It will bring you openings. It just does. That's just how it works. Now, if this planet we were talking about wasn't Uranus in Aries, if it was happening somewhere else, we would have a different story. But by the time I explained to her, in other words, I had talked to her so many times it didn't matter, because hitting her didn't matter because she was used to the abuse. But when it started to hit her kid, ding dong, thank God. So now she'll start to take action to sixth house herself, to watch her diet, to develop her skill set, to get better at things, to develop skills that will make her marketable, and thus she'll become more free and able to express herself. Do you see? That's basic zodiac. That's why I use the cross. Now, let me give you one more example, just for example's sake, okay? Let's say you are a Libra. Okay, we put Libra in the first house. Okay, well, where's Aries? If you're a Libra, everything's over here in Aries. Okay, so everything is being dynamic in the seventh house. Libra in the first, all this Aries in the seventh. So what that means is Aries is popping its head up out of the seventh. Now with them, they wouldn't even notice this because Libras are so conscious of the other, being one with the other, with the partner, etc. But this person needs to stop being so appeasing. Libras and Pisces and Cancers. Libras and Pisces and Cancers, oh my. Libras and Pisces and Cancers can't stand confrontation. But you had better confront somebody if they're standing on your toe. So if the Libra wants harmony and they're seeing all this Aries is coming from their seventh house, what that means is, who am I when I'm with you? Well, if I'm all charming and all the time I'm smooth and all this, and you're stepping on my foot and I'm all fine and all this, you get separated from yourself and you get what's called lost in the relationship. You've heard the phrase, you get lost in it. Because there's no more you. And the Aries is fighting for you. The Aries part of you is fighting for you to come out. So in the relationship with these Libra, with all Libras right now, they need to all become a little more assertive and express themselves and express their needs in terms of relationships. Now, for your sake, I will go through this one more time quickly, but I'm not going to spend time on it because I've already done it on 2 videos. Now, let me walk you through it. Hello, Marta. Okay. If your Aries is coming out in the 7th. No, if your Aries is coming out in the first house, so they don't even notice it. If you're Taurus, we put the second sign here, the Aries is coming out of your 12th house. So that means you need to start asserting your unconscious mind, which means you need to start digging into your past and solving issues. If you're Gemini, you're the 3rd sign, 2nd sign, 1st sign. If you're Gemini, Aries is coming out in your 11th with your friends and with your groups and with your hopes and wishes. Your big time hopes and wishes. So if you're Gemini, you need to start asserting yourself. Your hopes and wishes aren't going to fall in your lap. You need to get after it. If you're a Cancer, like the USA, 4th sign of Cancer, 3, 2, 1. The Aries stuff is hitting in the 10th house. The 10th house is, what position do you want to play in the world? Do you see anything changing with the United States? We have to start asserting ourselves, and some people are even saying we need to be number 1 again. I think that's an overreaction to what Aries is doing. But it certainly means we need to take the position in the world we need. If you're a Cancer, let's see, if you're a Leo, all Leo people, 5th sign, 4th sign, 3rd, twice, 1st. All Leo people are getting it in their 9th house of philosophy. you're in the corner now, and you're not going to go forward till you start living your philosophy. Put your money where your mouth is exactly what's happening to Leos, period. Virgos, 6th sign. Put the 6th sign here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boy, they don't want to hear this. The Aries stuff is happening in their 8th house. The 8th house is me plus you equals self-worth. What is my self-worth like when I'm with you? What is my self-worth like when I'm with another person? So this is tough for Virgos because Virgos aren't made for exchanging deep emotions. Okay, let's put the sign of Libra. We've already done that. We've already done Scorpio. We put Sag here, the 9th sign of Sagittarius. Okay? Opposite the 9th sign is the 3rd sign of Gemini, 5th house. Okay? Is that right? 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yes. So all Sagittarians are getting it in the 5th house. Well, they're not going to have any trouble with the 5th house. Aries in the 5th, because Aries in the 5th is all about expressing yourself. And I don't know many Sagittarians that have trouble with that. Do you? Most of them express themselves fine. Unless you got a real stuffed up one, so we have to deal with that. Capricorn. I'm getting this one. Capricorn's getting it from the 4th house. And this is tough for Capricorns because Capricorns have trouble with emotion. What am I doing? I just had a revolution. Somebody sold my house. I'm moving. Total chaos 2 doors away. It's just out of nowhere. I just got everything totally flip-flopped and have to move everything again. But it's going to be a brand new start. Why? Because the Aries in the 4th house is all about getting a new emotional nest that works for me. That's what it's about. Aquarius, I told you, the 3rd house of expressing their mind. Finally, Pisces. Pisces, all Pisces people are getting it in their 2nd house. The Aries stuff is exploding in their 2nd house. This is very tough for Pisces because Pisces don't have a strong sense of self. So what's happening with them in the 2nd house is it's time for them to assert their self-worth, and that's not their nature. Their nature is the non-self. So that's a basic, real quick description, and go back through the past weeks and you'll see the complete delve into each one. All right. Now, I told you that tonight would be about cycles. This is where you're going to really see that zodiac come into play. Okay. The first cycle, I'm going to talk about the main planets, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. Matter of fact, I kind of left Neptune out. Neptune's hard to see. When Saturn starts and it opens up, it's on a 28-year cycle. Saturn behaves in pretty much a proper circle. We're about to see something incredible out of Saturn, as we're now viewing Saturn from beyond the rings, from inside the rings, with the Cassini space probe. And then it's going to crash into the surface. What's that going to mean? Does that mean all hell's breaking loose? Saturn's the planet that keeps everything together forever. Nothing has ever been inside of Saturn looking out. That's crashing into the planet in the next few weeks. Another subject, another day. So Saturn at age 7 is square. At age 14, it's opposite. At age 21, it's at a closing square. At age 28, it returns. There you see, once again, the north, south, east, and west compass of the zodiac. So to show you here, at age 7, put Saturn, wherever your Saturn is. Wherever it is, put it right here. It's a prism. At age 7, Saturn has gone from here to here. At age 14, it's gone from here to here, halfway around. At age 21, Saturn has gone 3/4 the way around. At age 28, Saturn has returned. Okay? That's why you keep using this zodiac like this. Have you ever heard of the 7-year itch in a marriage? Have you ever, of course, you see difficulties with your children when they're 7, but 7 is so they're so young you don't pay attention to the Saturn part, even though Saturn is very active in the person, but it's more or less seen in the businesses, in relationships. Anything that's 7 years old is going to go through trouble and testing because it's the opening square. When a planet conjuncts and it opens up into its first square, whether that's a 125-year cycle of Eris, whether that's a 7-year cycle of Saturn, the opening square is when you get tested. The sun, 3 months later, you ever hear 90-degree probation? That's the opening square of a solar year. The sun comes into its opening square. 6 months, it's opposite. 9 months, it's square, then the birthday. So, we don't pay much attention to the 7-year. What the 7-year means is the square is always a test to what started it. Is the thing that started working? Is it working? So if I'm rebuilding a car and working real hard, if I'm starting a new job, at the 7th year, all of a sudden you're going to start getting tested, in the weak spot of what you have started is going to show up. You're going to have your first crisis. It's normal, and you have to deal with it. Go back in your life. Take anything you started. That's why I'm slowing down, so you get these in your head. You can make notes. Anything you started, look at the 7th year. Football team, basketball team, new college, new business, anything. Dog, cat. You will see the first opening crisis. If you deal with it, fine. If you don't deal with it, not so fine. And you get a little bit crippled from it. Okay. Age 14, what happens is Saturn gets opposite itself. Now, two things happen. It's halfway around, and if you use the first house, this becomes the 7th house. What happens now? All oppositions have a 7th house connotation. All of them. Whether it's Uranus, 42 years later, whether it's Saturn, 14 years later, whether it's Pluto, 125 years later, they have a 7th house connotation because the planet has gotten halfway through its orbit. It's looking back at itself. At age 14, the crisis that happens to so many of us in this evil thing called middle school happens because up until then, you're holding hands and you're one big glob. Come on, Joey's with Billy and Billy's with Sally, and get your partner and you're one walking glob. Well, then you start to become individuals. Well, then when you become individual, you start to get in a clique. And when you get in a clique, it's really necessary to prove that their clique is no good and your clique is right. That's the problem with age 14. It's not the healthy way to deal with it. That's what more or less is behind it. That's why these cycles underlie all things. So at age 14, you're tested in your ability to remain yourself, but be part of the socialization process. That's what happens to so many kids you see at 14. They get lost in the peer group pressure. The idea is not to get lost. The idea is to maintain the self as you are partnering. Okay? So that's what happens at 14. And if you didn't fix that marriage at 7, guess what happens at 14? No concrete prediction, but you're going to have the same things come up again. You know, the same crack's going to get wider. There will be more distance. Another opportunity to face the facts, put the things on the table, Saturn, solve them. So 14 is a very sobering time. It is not simple, and we see it appearing very strongly with humans that are growing up. At any time, if you need to interrupt, if it's poignant to the subject I'm talking about, please do. Examples are good, and you'll see how these stories, I mean, I don't even have to ask you because you're all going to have your stories at 14. Susan Aver, you got your own microphone. Go ahead.
Did I just mute it? Muted. Okay, now I'm good. Sorry. So a person starts a venture, and 14 years later, Saturn is at the opposite end of the chart from when they started this venture. So let's say it's an attempt at a second career, maybe. So then what kind of challenge is happening at 14 years?
The challenge is what you started. Do you want to keep doing it? Is it working? Saturn is always, is it working? Saturn is, I make sure it works. I make sure it works. Is it working or not? If not, let's fix it.
Right.
Okay? And when you're talking about changing careers, things get very different. But that's what Saturn does then. Yeah, who was next? Marilyn, you had a question?
Yes. When you get into your senior years and you have the Saturn return,
Right.
is that at 76 years of age?
I'm not getting into that because that's on my list and it's coming up.
Okay.
Okay, it's definitely on the list. We're going chronologically.
Thank you.
It's around age 58, actually, around then. Okay, so at 14, you see the stress point again. At 21, something remarkable happens, and that's a big time, and you know 21 is. Here's what. At 21, Saturn has gone from here 3/4 the way around, and Uranus has gone from here to here. Uranus and Saturn work together as far as their cycles. Uranus is now squaring Uranus, while Saturn is now squaring Saturn. Saturn has gone 3/4 the way around. Uranus has gone to here. Well, you'll notice that Saturn is not only squaring Saturn, Saturn is now at the Saturnian midheaven, which means get a job and support yourself. The midheaven is a very simple place in most cases. Are you working? This is the work you're going to do. How's your job? What is your calling? I'm going to beat on you. Are you able to withstand the pressure? So while the Saturn is squaring the Saturn, you've also got the Uranus squaring the Uranus. But the one is coming from the Uranus is squaring from the bottom, which is the Uranian nadir. And Saturn is squaring from the top, which is the Saturnian midheaven. So talk about screwy. I mean, Saturn and Uranus are saying opposite things, and they don't last one day. These things go on for months or years. But if you think about 21, what's happening? Uranus is at the bottom. And by the way, on my website, I found out a little thing you can do. On my YouTube, you can type in Rick DiClemente and the word Uranus, and it will take you to my videos that are more concerned just about that subject. But I did a really nice video a while ago about the stages of Uranus and how critical 21, 42, 63, 84. And they're explained in great detail, Uranus cycles. So the Uranus is hitting from the bottom. It's opened up 21 years, 42, 63, 84. The fourth house is the bottom. It's the family. So the revolution, the I want to be myself, which is what Uranus is about, the I want to be myself says, well, are you being yourself or is your family still corralling you? Fourth house. That's why the rebellion is fourth house related. And whether you're right or wrong or good parents or not, that's why the kids going through this. We're always on my back. Let me go. That's what's happening. They're coming out of the nest, and sometimes no matter what you do, they're going through this imaginary revolution, and you all heard it. You got to let them go. You got to let them drive. My God, you got to let them drink, right? But that's why it's a fourth house-in type of event and Uranus mixed in. You see, you don't have to complicate things to translate. You don't have to. If Uranus is all about testing your individuality, which it does again at age 63, Have I been living my life? Have I been myself? What's on my bucket list? But at the same time, Saturn is squaring. Saturn is 3/4 the way around. When you're raising a kid, you know they're not going to grow up at 18. You know they're not going to grow up at 21. You kind of expect it, but they grow up at 28 when the Saturn returns. And if they don't grow up at 28, then we got to turn the page and go to chapter 2. Okay? So what does Saturn do at the same time that Uranus is causing this emotional revolution? Saturn's testing them, giving them the ability, testing them to be out in the world and making their own way. That's why 21 is tough, because you're getting a double whammy. Okay, next one. The big dreaded Saturn return, age 28. Okay, for me it was very simple. I was a filmmaker. Films were dying, video was taking over. My girlfriend just says, you're not going anywhere, so you up and left me. And I went back to school. I had a degree already, and I went back to school to learn computers. So I had to go back to stage 1 and learn all over. The Saturn returned. But the Saturn return is so big, it's so important, there's so much to it. There's so much misunderstanding. It's the #1 reason that I'm an astrologer, because my astrologer when I was 21 scared the hell out of me about what was going to happen at 28, because my Saturn is extremely strong. So at 28, your life starts to come together. The Saturn part inside of you starts to come together. For most people. If it doesn't, there's a real problem. And the problem is not what Saturn's going to do to you. The problem is you're not in touch with your practical side. Well, you might be out of touch with your practical side for a lot of different reasons. Your father may have been overly practical and you've got a real fixation against being that way. Your family may have been very non-Saturnian and you're just kind of used to it. Who knows what your past life chart says, but it's the time to come together. I have so many clients come to me and they drag in their 25-year-old teenager. What can we do with him? I say, nothing, he's a Sagittarian. I say, no, realistically. Give him some time. Give her some time. It's happening. They're starting to change. I've seen the wildest free spirits that you never thought would get married. All of a sudden, they're 27 and they're just obsessed about getting married. The Saturn inside of you starts to complete. These are organic, archetypal cycles. They're not something Joe says. They're not something reported to you. They happen inside. You start to come together. They call me back. They say, well, he's 27 and a half now, and the weirdest thing you wouldn't believe, he wants to get a job, and he's really doing better with his bank account, and blah, 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 blah. It's a natural cycle. Now, when you see a marriage, when I see a marriage that's 31 years old and it's not going well, I got trouble. Bing! Why? With 31 years of marriage. What have they been doing the last 3 years? Because you should have fixed the marriage at 28. Well, when you investigate, you find out that they became more of two roommates since 28. Because at the 28th year of marriage, if there are problems, 28 gives what I call a natural perforation. You ever try to get away from somebody you can't? They try to get away from you and they can't. Well, 28, all of a sudden it becomes real possible. You can go your way, I can go my way. There's no problem. The ocean splits. They can get away. So in other words, at 28, you see, well, my God, I can't separate if I want. So if I really want this thing, I need to work on it because the cycle is now complete. So I asked him at 31, what did you do at 28 as far as your marriage? Oh, Bill talked me into going to group therapy, and we went to marriage therapy for 2 weeks, and he didn't like it. So we went to our own corners and our own television. Okay? The proper way to handle it is at 27, 26, you're starting to sense problems. I'm not satisfying her. She's not satisfying me. Whatever, you start to adjust and you work on it, and you get the marriage back together. And all marriages, all partnerships, when they come back together, they're about one thing: improving the friendship. And the rest goes from there. So that's wonderful. You get it back together at 28, things start to fit. You get to the Saturn return, it's not too bad. You get to 31, it's not a problem. So 28 is you can't BS it anymore. You can't BS it anymore. It's on the table, it's broken. What are you going to do? A lot of people wait till 31 and then they try to fix it. Then it's tougher because they don't feel like it. Okay. I have found, without a doubt, Saturn returns are largely really good things. Now, the one at 58 is really tough on your body. The one at 28 can be too, but usually you're too rubbery and it's not a problem. It comes to completion. That's the completion of the cycle. And yes, when 28 and Saturn's back together, and 7 years later, when it's 35, that's another 7. That's a 28 plus 7. So that Saturn return that you fixed the marriage at 28 is going to have its first crisis of the second cycle at 35. And on. You're getting the point. Okay, next big one. Humongous, age 42. What happens at age 42? Uranus becomes opposite itself. Uranus, 84 years, becomes opposite itself. And at the same time, Saturn is opposite Saturn. So Uranus has gone halfway, and Saturn has gone 1.5. But it's so important that the Uranus, we'll talk about it. Uranus is opposite Uranus, but not from the 4th house, like when you left the family. Now it's at the 7th house, which is relationships. And this is where so many guys want to get a motorcycle and go to Las Vegas and go on Route 66 and get some cool sunglasses. And it's called the midlife crisis. Because I'm losing my youth, I'm getting stiffer, I can't do what I once did. What am I going to do? I'm 42 now. And this is where you see the midlife crisis. And I told you before, the wrong way to use it is to complain about your mate. If you were just this, if you were just that, I'd be better. 42 is when the wife comes downstairs in her robe and she's got her coffee and she sees a note on the table and it says, honey, I can't take it anymore and I'm gone. It's sudden. That's how Uranus works. One day, that's it, up to here, gone. That's exactly how you don't use it. That's the wrong way to use it, and it's destructive. What should have happened is that age 41, age 40, that person needed to talk to their mate. I'm having trouble here. I feel like I can't be myself, blah, 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 blah. Let's work it through. 42 is, I've sold out to this company. All I do is work. I don't have any freedom. All right, so the other day, sidetrack, bookmark. I'm doing a reading the other day. Young man, about 47 years of age now. I'm reading for him. I've read for him for 10 years, and I haven't seen him in about 7 years, and I'm reading for him. He comes out of nowhere, so I know exactly why he came, okay? For some other purpose, connected by business. So he's very proper. He's very, very nice, has a very lovely wife, nice kids, and everything is fine. And he's 9 to 5 and 9 to 5 and 9 to 5, 9 to 5, and he's 46. So I say to him, what happened to you 3 years ago? Nothing. What happened to you 3 years ago? Nothing. Warning flag. He went through his midlife crisis and nothing happened. Well, there's only 3 ways to go through Uranus opposite Uranus. One is you go, boy, I'm not living. Let me live a little bit, get a motorcycle, have some fun, get in a guitar band, resurrect my guitar, have some fun and good times. That's cool. You're coming back to life. Second way, which is more common, you kind of come to life, you kind of go back to the job. You kind of learn to do things, but you kind of mix the two up. Third way, worst way, nothing happens. So I know he was sent to me without a doubt at age 45, 46 to examine the fact that he's gone through his Uranus with nothing happening. And I examined him, and he was a Sagittarian, and he had a bunch of Saturn, and he had a bunch of Virgo. Had to work, 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 had to work. Well, what do you think the inner Sagittarian was saying? I don't want to work. Sag's motto, if it ain't fun, I'm not doing it. Well, you got to blend them at least. So at least let the Sag out. So by talking to him, and he kept telling me about his 5-year plans and 5-year plans and 10-year plans and 5-year plans. I said, tell me one 5-year plan that you ever put in place that ever came about. Ever. You cannot control what you're doing. You don't have any choice. You think you do. God does it all. You just unfold. So I tried not to be too evangelical. So I was able to show him and see that, yes, I've worked too hard. I've done really well. I'm really good. People trust me. They like my business. Very good. But I died to myself. I'm not having fun. I asked his wife, Virgo, Saturn. Lovely woman. Same thing for her. So these people were able to get through their midlife crisis, but make the adjustment 3 years later. And now I don't even need to talk to them again. I know that they're going to start going to the country club more, going to go boating more, going to go swimming more, get more babysitters, whatever. You see the point. In alignment with their own Uranus. And they have to get past all that Virgo stuff. Well, are you allowed to? Are you allowed to? Did you get all pass? Well, who said you could do that now? All that Saturn Virgo voices. So I was very, very pleased when it was all over and said and done. I knew right away what the problem was, that this person's not going to become radical at work. They're not going to throw their job away, but they're now going to start living for themselves. So it was really a wonderful thing to watch happen. Okay, I'm going to move along now. I want to get to Robert's chart. Looks like we're going to be a little late, and I don't care, because Robert is worth it. Old friend of mine. Age 51. Dangerous age. Very meaningful, very critical age is when Chiron returns. Chiron started here and he returns back where he does. But Chiron is on such an elliptical orbit that the squares happen to different people at different times, and the oppositions happen to different people at different times, because it's an oval that you're bisecting, quadrisecting. But age 51 is when Chiron returns. And since Chiron represents your wound, when he returns at age 51, it either gets better and healed or it gets worse. But you look at your age 50 and a half, 51, 51 and a half, you look at how many critical things happen to people at 51, especially their health. Now, I'm a big believer in Chiron being your life direction. Chiron is mostly talked about as a wounded healer. I'm a big believer in the hero's journey part of it. So oftentimes what happens is you get sick, and you get sick because you haven't been following your mission, and it talks you into finally getting with your mission, then you get with your mission, and you get better. So 51 can be very critical. Okay, 58, the second Saturn return, got me good. Nailed me to open heart surgery. Age 57, boom, stop in the tracks. Of course, I'm a double Capricorn. So if you haven't gotten yourself together during your first Saturn return, the second one is not a picnic. And the Saturn returns are really simple things. Are you taking responsibility for your life? That's it. If you are, Saturn times can be very rewarding. Lots of trophies, lots of adoration. If you're not, Saturn stops you. And this is the one that's really dangerous physically. You are safer physically when you are 60, 61, 62 than you are at 57 or 58. And I'm telling you from experience by watching people. Now, one other thing that happens at 58, the Saturn has gone around once. It gives you 3 chapters of life, basically. The first chapter is learning about life, which is why kids don't really grow up till 28. The second chapter is you step into your adulthood, you get a white picket fence, you get married, you have kids, you go to school, all those traditional things. You pay your dues. The third chapter is your golden years, which is really preparation for your spiritual journey. But what happens naturally, and I see this so much, is inside you graduate from your kids. My parents had me when they were 28. So during their Saturn return, I was born. So when they had their second, I was having my first. And what did they tell me? We're not going to worry about you anymore. You've always got a place to stay. But if you're out all night, we're not going to worry about it, because you know what parenting's like. At the second Saturn return, you start to feel you graduate from responsibilities, unless your chart is heavily laden with Cancer, heavily laden with Capricorn, Virgo, yes. But basically, you start to graduate from all these things you're so concerned about because you have paid your dues. Very dangerous time physically, even if you handle all Saturn times every 7 years, all Saturn times. Even if you're the most responsible person in the world, you're going to turn that age meter up. You're just going to. The wrinkles are going to come. The joints are going to get stiffer. You're going to have tougher times. That's just what happens when Saturn's around. You age quicker. You just do. The parts of Saturn that rule the body become endangered. The teeth, all the hard parts. The teeth, the bones, the joints, the knees, and the skin, since the skin contains the body. Those areas will start to develop problems faster than usual, let's say. So 58 can be tough, but if you're in touch with yourself, it's really good because you start to pave the way for your third trip around, which is you start living for yourself and your spiritual years, and you're past the years of monitoring, watching, nurturing, etc., etc. Of course, there are other subcycles inside subcycles with Jupiter, etc., but I'm not going to go into that. I want to get into Robert's chart. So the next thing I want to talk about is 63. So at 63, it's simply that Uranus has gone 3/4 the way around. At 21, Uranus was about the revolution with the family. At 42, Uranus was opposite itself, which is the revolution in the relationships. Now it's the revolution in the world, in your place in the world. So a lot of people retire at 58 or at 63, but a lot of times 63 is a minor secondary midlife crisis. I'm getting older now. I'm not moving very well. Have I been myself? Have I been doing what I want to do? And I don't mean this in a selfish way. Have I been rickifying the world? Have I been ninkifying the world? That's what Uranus is about. It's that ability to do what Fred Rogers said. There's nobody like you. That's a heavy-duty statement. There is no one like you. Have you been giving that to the world? That's why it rules Aquarius, and you see the water vase being poured out. giving back to the earth, but not just giving back. You're giving back the real you. You've expressed the real uniqueness of you. That's what happens at 63. The final one is at 84, and I must say the more and more I do this, I'm seeing more and more wonderful people who are 84. Uranus has completely gone around. Saturn has gone around 3 times. It's the third Saturn return. It's the first Uranus cycle. You'll even see this in businesses that are 84 years of age. You'll see all kind of things where they put on a new front. They rip away the front. Their logo becomes red and shiny. They put on a new image to the public. They're renewed. So at 84, if you're still lucid, what usually happens is, like with Ram Dass, who just had his, the Pope John Paul died exactly on his Uranus return. Exactly. He wanted out of the body. He was done. He was done with his mission. David Hawkins, the great author, wrote his 9th and final book. He said, I'm done. Age 84, he left the body. Uranus is about individual freedom. Both of those souls were bright enough to know that they had done their mission. They were done, finished. You could see it in John Paul. John Paul wanted to leave. He knew he had accomplished what he needed to. He knew he was going on to things he'd been preparing for all his life, and he wanted to go. Now, people who live beyond 84, that's fine. Do what you want to do. There aren't any rules. But at age 84 is a really critical turning point, because most people don't want to go past it because they feel so limited that they can't express themselves inside that body. Okay? Now, I'm going to go to Robert's chart in a moment, but before I do, I will take basic, quick questions about the stages. Any questions? Yeah, Ann, I got you unmuted.
So, what do you think about trines?
Trines are marvelous things. I didn't cover them because they're usually so pleasant and smooth, and you just simply, in most cases, you take the positive side of that planet and you just make that really big in your life. Things start to work in those senses. What about Pluto? I could go into that, but not tonight because I've just covered the major ones. So if it's Saturn, your life just starts to work. If it's Jupiter, trine Jupiter, a lot of opportunity comes your way. So you don't have the crisis, the hardship of the square and the opposition or the conjunction, but you have the pleasant arrival of its positive side. Yes, other questions? But did you get an idea what I'm talking about tonight? And that's why I harped on showing you the quadrants, the 4 quadrants. Yes, there are sextiles. Yes, there are trines. Yes, there are inconjunct. There are many other subcycles, but these are the main cycles of a person's life. If you didn't get it all, you don't get it from the video tomorrow. I have documents I've written in detail on the same subject on my website, starself.com, where just you can search by subject and you can search for the word cycle. Now, before I go on to Robert and Diana here, hi Diana, does this help you put your life in an understandable position? Do you see it now? And see, what's confusing is once Uranus is done, here comes Saturn. And you're following Saturn, and then here comes Jupiter. Then here comes Pluto. And so it's hard to watch these patterns because one's overlaying the other, and that just helps people say, oh, astrology is about your garbage. Because they don't understand. Okay, give me a moment, please. And I am going to stop the recording and say, let's all say goodbye to our YouTube people. And we'll see you later.